Let's make some noise. Come on.
Oh, indeed. Thank you, Nick Foles, once again for that great introduction. Yes, let's make some noise because we're back. Live and direct from the It's a Wrap Sports Center headquarters. The final word with MattyB is on the air. Yes, we're back. Seems weird for me to be on the air because, good God, I think, 2 episodes last week. We promote this show for a 4-night, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 5-night-a-week affair. But I did 2 episodes last. I honestly couldn't tell you the last time I did 5. It's been that long. And as I said earlier on the Fighting's Final, I got to be more consistent. If I advertise something, I got to deliver it. So I'm back tonight, fleetingly, because I won't be back tomorrow. I'll be back on the Fighting's Final, but I will not be back here on the Final Word tomorrow. But I'll be back again on Tuesday for the Final Word and Wednesday. So Wednesday. Pep, I don't know. Wednesday's too far out. I can't think of Wednesday right now. But let's not revel in the past. Let's just look forward to the future. So tonight on the program, we got the final word in your Philadelphia Sports Day. You know, with the fact that we've not been so consistent with this show, I guess you can kind of call it the final word in your Philadelphia Sports Days. A few days have elapsed since we've been on the air, and we got some things to talk about, some things stacking up a little bit here for me to get to, and we're going to try to get to some of them tonight. Lead story tonight, of course, is always the Phillies. And, we can continue the conversation that we started back on the Fighting's Final. 4-3 loss today by the Phillies to the New York Yankees. The inconsistencies of this offense once again rear its ugly head. Zach Wheeler did not pitch well, but he pitched okay. He pitched enough. He did enough to keep the team around. But the Phillies, once again, were not able to generate any consistent offense in order to help out their pitcher. They took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees in the Bronx, which is great. They continued the conversation of relevancy as they make a push for the playoffs. But as of right now, this team is sitting at a ripe 10-10 for the month of July. 10-10. They are a 500 ball club in the month of July. That shouldn't sound so surprising or too surprising to others, to you out there, because if you take away the 19-9 May, this team has operated at or around 500 all season long. How long can we live on the success of May as we get into the meat of this? 105 games in. 150 some odd in, or 50 some odd in change remaining? The NL is so goddamn tight at the top. A 5-game losing streak could be detrimental to this team. And is this what the 4th highest payroll in Major League Baseball? Is this acceptable? So that's definitely on the table tonight. And also with the trade deadline looming, what are the Phillies going to do, if anything? John Middleton made very candid comments last week saying that he wants to be better. Obviously, he wants his trophy and all that, but he's not prepared to mortgage the future for it. He doesn't want to go back to those dark days of 2012 or 2013 through 2018. And I don't blame him. I don't want to go back there either. So what does that mean for the Phillies and their ability to significantly upgrade at the trade deadline? And who are those players? And not homer trades. We're not going to explore friggin' Juan Soto for Bryson Stott. We're not going to explore those types of trades. We're going to talk about realistic trade offers to give up realistic pieces to get realistic value. And is that going to be enough? Because there's a second part to this trade deadline question. It's not who we give up. Obviously, that's my big question. But whoever we bring in, is it worth it? Are they going to be what this team needs to get over the hump? And I maintain, as we sit here at the end of July, that this team is multitude of players away from getting over that hump. So do you even go out and attempt to get better at the trade deadline and give up assets swinging for the fences on something that you might not be able to achieve. And I don't think they can achieve it, with a trade deadline move. That's on the table. We're going to talk some hockey tonight because Carter Hart, Carter Hart is a free man. He was found, him and the other 4 defendants that were up for sexual assault charges stemming from an incident that occurred back in the summer of 2018, were acquitted of their crimes. Now, it's interesting because they were not found not guilty. They just weren't found guilty. I think that's what the judge said. So I think that's an interesting way to spin it. And we're going to get into Carter Hart. We're going to get into potential Carter Hart future and maybe reuniting with the Flyers. Is that something that's feasible? We got our Day in Philadelphia Sports History of the Night segment, and of course our card review. All that we're going to spin in about an hour's worth of family fun entertainment as we're talking about sexual assault charges. But before we get started, let me remind everybody out there that this program is brought to you by the fine folks at the SRF Sports Network, makers of such quality program as the Fight and Final. And here you go. It's all over the internet. I put it up a few hours ago, but this is your lineup for the week for the White Sox series. Interesting series for the Phillies going up against the Chicago White Sox, team that has absolutely nothing to win and nothing to lose. And what does this say about the Phillies? If they go into Chicago and don't get is it sweep or bust for the Phillies? Is anything but a sweep going to be considered a success against the bottom feeder Chicago White Sox? And God forbid they lose the series to the White Sox or get swept themselves. But here's the individuals that are going to bring you that information as it comes known. Tomorrow night it is going to be me. That's a last minute change. I am in for Pat Bernard tomorrow night. If you don't know, Pat is dealing with some massive internet problems, and he's pulled himself out of the rotation until he can figure that out. So I'm in for Pat tomorrow. Steve Fuentes will be here on Tuesday, and I will be on my regularly scheduled time on Wednesday. So there you go. Make sure you're checking out the Fight and Final because we're getting right to it, and you don't want to miss a second of the action on the Fight and Final. So thought I'd bring that up. Joel checked in. Joe, how you doing, brother? What's going on this fine evening? Sunday night, man. I remember Sundays as a kid. So Sundays in the summer, I didn't mind so much, obviously. But I hated Sundays as a kid. It's always like a waste of a day. I'm not a kid anymore. Still hate Sundays. It's Sunday, right? It's been a long day, man. I've stopped keeping track of days months ago. So I think it's Sunday. I know the PM and the AM program was on this morning. So yeah, I'm going to go with Sunday. So let's get it started here tonight on the show. Let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up. Keep your head, hands, feet inside the car at all times. And here we go with your day in Philadelphia sports history. On this day in 2008, the Philadelphia Soul defeated the San Jose Sabres Cats 59-56 in Arena Football League's Arena Bowl 22. I remember this. I was in Iraq actually when this happened, and I remember the parade. They had a parade for the Soul. Like 17 people showed up. Despite a return to play in 2010, the league final was the last of the original AFL's history. The current incarnation is actually that of the upstart Arena Football 1, operating under the veil of the defunct league's trademark. Shortly after the 2008 Arena Bowl, financial difficulties led to the sudden fold of the New Orleans Voodoo franchise, and what proved to be the foreshadowing for the fate of the league entirely. At auction, the AFL and its assets were sold off to the AF1, fielding 15 teams originally and only recently luring the Soul franchise back into the fray. The Soul finished as runner-ups to the Arizona Rattlers in both Arena Bowls 25 and Arena Bowl 27. So for all you Arena Bowl fans out there, and we got excited about that, man. That was exciting stuff, man. That was the first championship we had in this town. What was that? Because don't forget, it was in the summer of 08, so it was before the Phillies won the World Series. So it was the first championship we had here since, goddamn. Was it the Sixers in 83? That can't be right. was the I think it was. Yeah, good night. So the Philadelphia Soul winning Arena Bowl 20 on this day back in 2008 was the first championship we celebrated in Philadelphia since 1983. And you wonder why I'm so damn jaded. But there you go. Your day of Philadelphia sports history. The Philadelphia Soul defeat the what did I say? The San Jose SaberCats, capturing Arena Bowl 20. And Joe reminds me, yes, indeed, it's Sunday. Thank you, Joe. So Joe's always there to keep me on track. All right, let's go. Let's get into it. Let's roll the dice. Also, the Eagles are on the table too. I forgot to mention that as we are deep in the training camp. Next week, man, is the actually, is that tomorrow night? What is that? When is the Hall of Fame game? That's coming up here soon, right? Let's look at that up. The Hall of Fame game. Hall of Fame game. July 31st. So that's coming up this week. Wow. Chargers and Lions on Thursday. Wow. So the NFL preseason will kick off Thursday with the Hall of Fame game. So, oh yeah, and also Cooperstown Baseball Hall of Fame. That's in the news tonight as well. We can talk about that as some players got into the Hall of Fame today, to include 2 former Phillies. So we'll get into that. But the Hall of Fame game, so they go literally right from Cooperstown to Canton in a week, and they'll get that thing going. If you're into the Hall of Fame enshrinements, you came up to Cooperstown, New York, and probably you're on the road right now heading out to Canton, Ohio for round 2, as they'll get the NFL or the Football Hall of Fame. And they do a whole week's worth of stuff out in Canton. Canton don't mess around with that stuff. Yeah, that's a spectacle. If you ever want to see something really cool, drive out to Canton this week for Hall of Fame week, because it's here in Cooperstown they only do like a weekend worth. Out there in Canton, it's a whole week-long celebration of football, culminating with the inductions next week on Sunday, I believe, or Saturday. So we got Hall of Fame stuff in the news tonight as well. So we got a bunch of stuff to get into. A bunch of stuff. If more people came on, could you please open? I will. If I get more than just Joe, I will get more people going here. Phone lines will be open tonight if I can generate a little bit more audience participation. But anyway, so let's talk Phillies. Phillies lose today 4-3 in a game where, it seems to be common occurrence with this team when it comes to offense. They put up some big numbers for a few games, and then they kind of have a clunker there. Zach Wheeler did not pitch well today. Did not pitch well at all. But he left the Phillies in this game, and he gave them an opportunity to win. 10-10 now in the month of July. 10-10. And I know with the talk of the trade deadline, and everyone's excited, and they're up there at the top of the NL East. They're up there in the upper crust of the National League. But it is so damn tight up there that a 2 or 3, maybe not 2, but a 3 to 4 to 5 game losing streak sends the Phillies right outside the playoff picture. 100%. And if you take away that vaunted month of May, where they went 19-9 through the month of May, if you take that off the damn table, the Phillies are a 500 to slightly better 500 baseball team. And that's an amazing stat. That's an amazing number for a team that boasts as much payroll than the Phillies do. And as we've fallen short year after year after, I guess, 3 times since 2022 with this payroll, when's enough? Right? When do you sit here and say, you know what, this ain't working, and we got to not blow it up, but we got to make some changes? Now, you don't do it trade deadline in season. You don't do that. You try to add on. But the Phillies are in a vicarious spot right now. Their farm system, for the first time in years, is starting to show some sort of development. It's starting to show some assets, some of the fruit is ripening on that vine down there. And that hasn't been the way for some time now. And when you're a team that's the Phillies, and you're with one of the highest payrolls in the sport, and you have expectations of winning the World Series, your fans have expectations of winning the World Series, and your owner wants his trophy back, what do you do if you're Dave Dombrowski? What do you do? And that's a question that I'm sure he's been asking himself for the last couple of months. And now as we get into the crunch time, July 31st is the trade deadline in baseball. What do you do if you are Dave Dombrowski at this trade deadline? Because I maintain that it is more than just a bullpen arm and a bat. There's many things that are not right about this baseball team. And I don't think those things can be addressed adequately in season. That's what you have the offseason for. Now, Dave Dombrowski's offseason track record has not been good. We can't cry about that now. But when you are in a position right now to go all in, and again, I know there's a large portion of the fan base, homer and non-homer alike, that wants to just go all in. The hell with it. Push it all in the center of the table. Well, your owner doesn't feel that way. He said he's not ready or comfortable with mortgaging the future for a couple pieces that may or may not work out this year. I didn't say that, but he did say he wasn't comfortable about mortgaging the future. So you're not going to sit here and tell your fans in 2025 and on July 27th, hey, you know what? Listen, we're not going all in. So because we're not as close as you think we are. But as we sit here now, and time is ticking, and the Phillies have made they made some moves, but nothing that I'm not going to waste my time talking about. And David Robertson, if that actually is one of the headlining moves that the Phillies make, then obviously we got our answer about where or what the direction this team wanted to go at the trade deadline. Joe Hale asked, how many draft picks did the Phillies sign? Well, Joe, that's an interesting question, and I'll give you that answer right now. So currently at this particular moment in time, as of I think about 3 hours ago, the Phillies have signed all but 3 of their draft picks. All but 3 of the 20 picks the Phillies made in this draft have been signed. The 3 that have not signed, their 16th round pick, Logan Dawson, the shortstop out of Eastern High School in New Jersey. He is not signed. The round 8 pick, Brian Walters, the right-hand pitcher from the University of Miami, is currently unsigned. And the 20th round pick, Landon Schaefer, shortstop from Fayetteville Senior High School in Arkansas, he has not signed. So the Phillies have till tomorrow at 5 p.m., July 28th, in order to sign all those draft picks. If they don't, those draft picks that are unsigned are not able to participate at all in any sort of Philadelphia Philly affiliated team activities. They can't join a minor league team. They can't work out in teams' facilities. They can't do nothing Phillies related for the rest of this season. And they have until 1 hour before the draft next year in Philadelphia in order to sign, or they cannot, or they'll be redrafted. They'll go back into the draft pool. So all of 3, which actually is about par for the course. Of course, our first round pick, Gage Wood, signed for $3 million. Our second round pick, Cade Obenmueller, the left-hand pitcher out of Iowa, signed for about $1.2 million. Our third rounder, Cody Boker, the right-handed pitcher from Vanderbilt, about $700,000. Man, you go from round 1 at $3 million to round 3 at $700,000. Damn, that's a drop off. And then, so on and so forth. This list goes, each decreasingly less than the last as we go down this list. And just to kind of give it a little bit of clarity there. The 19th round pick, Robert Phelps, the shortstop from Reinhardt University, signed for $7,500. No, $75,000. Not $7,500. $75,000. I'd still, hey, listen, man, I'll take $75,000 and go hang out with the Clearwater Thrashers for the next couple months. Damn right, man. Absolutely. I can live on $75,000. I can live with the house I'm living in now with a $2,500 mortgage, all the other associated bills, a nagging ass wife. I could live on $75,000 and play baseball. That'd be great, man. But to answer Joe Hale's question, all but 3 of the Phillies draft picks have signed. And all but 3 of them will be able to participate with the team. Now, to kind of close the gap on the draft pick question, some buffoons out there, the whole Gage Wood going into making the Phillies roster for the postseason, and then someone I had heard somewhere, I can't remember where or who, somebody said that Gage Wood was in Reading. Gage Wood is not in Reading. Okay. Gage Wood has no idea where Reading is. He's got no idea probably where the Phillies have a double-A team in Reading. And he is, of course, not part of that double-A team. He is currently, along with the others, in Clearwater at the Phillies training facility at Baycare, working out. Now, as they go through their paces with the player development staff, they will be assigned to the appropriate level of minor league team. The majority of them are headed to Clearwater, to the Threshers. There might be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 that get up to Lakewood. Maybe Gage Wood does see high A. I don't know. But there's no way in hell Gage Wood's going to double A right off the bat. They're not going to do that. There's absolutely no way in hell they're moving him to double A straight off the block. They're not doing that. They're all pretty much going to start out with Clearwater. Now, there is a roster size issue, and this is the time of the year where players begin to move upward. And as we talked about on the Down on the Phillies Farm report earlier, the FCL Phillies are now done for the season. So some of those players are going to be upped into low A as well. So there's some roster moves that are going to have to be made. And now this is that time of the year where you see a lot of them, a lot of the abundant moves that are being made minor league wise to kind of, to reward players and their seasons they've had and move them up to a different level. And it's also to make room at the lower levels for some of these damn draft picks. But there's been no official word on where these players are going to go. At this time, they're still going through a developmental, I like to call it maybe a developmental boot camp or a professional baseball boot camp that they're probably going through right now down in Clearwater with the Phillies player development people. And then after they probably get some, simulated games, some workouts, some tape, some coaching, they'll probably make a determination of where these players will end up for the rest of this year. And obviously all eyes are going to be on Gage Wood. Where does he go? But to say he's getting assigned right off the bat to Reading, I don't know who the hell said that. It's one of the most asinine things I've ever heard in my life. He's not going to double A. He is going to start in low A, more than likely. I think the Phillies will go get a bat. Joe, listen, and we're going to jump and let's talk about that because you got me on to the damn you got me on to the draft picks when I was talking about trade deadline stuff. So let's get back to trade deadline. I also agree with Joe Hale. I think the Phillies should go after a bat. I think that they need to if anything, if you're trying to save, and I don't want to use, I guess save is the wrong word. If you're trying to maximize, let's use the word maximize your potential, you got to go all in on the offense. If you're going to do that, and I would be okay with that. Obviously, I don't want to see the top tier level prospects. And again, I spoke about this earlier on the show, on the final. I don't think that Painter, Crawford, Abel, Miller, Christ, we could name a few others. They probably are they're not getting moved. There's just no way that trade's happening. But the lower level players, the second tier guys, the Keaton Anthonys of the world, the Gene Cabreras of the world, the Gabriel Racones Juniors of the world, the Devin Saltamans of the world, the Eduardo Taits of the world, the Dylan Campbells, the Arun Escobars. I could go on and on and on. Now, those players, I fear for them because I think the trades are coming from that level. And we are going to lose some of those guys. I think the Phillies are going to navigate away or try to at least navigate away from those top tier prospects being dealt. I honestly do because I believe the owner. I don't think he wants to go back into those dark days of 13 through 18 when the team stunk and had nothing in their minor league system. Nothing. Now, some players that could interest me that might not break the bank offensively. Again, barring wholesale changes, because we can't make those wholesale changes. We can't go after multiple players in this trade deadline and expect to pull it off without just depleting the entire minor leagues. But you're looking at a player like maybe Ryan O'Hearn, right? We've gotten nothing from our outfield, or at least from the center field through left field positioning. Ryan O'Hearn probably would be okay. Batting 281, 375, and a 452. That's a slash line for the Orioles. He hasn't really fit in there. He's a left-hander, and he does struggle against lefties. But he's got patience, and he's got a better OBP. So it's an upgrade. Now, is it Kepler 3.0? Is it Austin Hayes 3.0? Is it Whit Merrifield? Yeah, it's kind of along those lines. But again, he's a little bit more of a patient hitter than what we got out there. So I don't think a Ryan O'Hearn's going to break the bank. I think you can probably pull off a Ryan O'Hearn trade, and it's per what Dombrowski does. He always adds that left fielder because we can't seem to figure that position out at all. But he always adds that left fielder, center fielder guy. Will Castro is another player that intrigues me. He's out there in Minnesota. We need some help at second base. We need some help at second. And we also need some help at third. Will Castro would kind of fit that mold, right? He's above average. He's a switch hitter, and he plays all over the field. So he could play every position inside that in that lineup. He's like a better version of Armando Sosa. I would be okay with that. Absolutely okay with that offensively, adding a Will Castro or a Ryan O'Hearn. Right. And then, of course, there's the other players. There's Harrison Bader's name being thrown around. The Eugenio Suarez move, which I don't know. Why don't we just bring in Ryan Howard? I mean, we're trading for these old people. All these players that I'm talking about, they're not the names that we're all used to like seeing, right? Like, who's this year's Juan Soto? Who's this year's Manny Ramirez? Who is this year's bell cow guy? There's not even one out there. And that also should drive somewhat of the Phillies' decisions to bring players here. Like, is it even worth it with the players that are legitimately being dangled out there? And I think that has to be taken into consideration. You're going to trade away assets for a rental player, more than likely. And he's not even that like splashy of a rental player. So the more and more time passes by, the closer we get to the deadline, I'm pulling back more and more on even trading anybody, to be honest with you. Now, I know they got to make a move, and they better make a move. The city will burn if they don't. But I think all those things need to be taken into consideration, man. I like the Phillies' shot at Suarez, third baseman from the D-backs. Yeah, but he's 34 years old, man. Come on, man. 34 years old. What's he going to do? And Otto Kemp's out there stroking multiple home runs in a game at Yankee Stadium. Maybe we got the answer at third base. Maybe we're just not confident enough to turn the thing over to an Otto Kemp. I'm not saying Otto Kemp, but I'm not on it. This Suarez is too old, man. He's too old. Nah, I'm okay. I'll pass on that. Again, I don't want to give up anything. I don't want to get these players just don't like a few years back. What was the last one? Was it Soto? Was it the last big one? The last bell cow player sent at the deadline when the Nationals traded him to the Padres. Was it Soto? Am I missing somebody in between there? Like, who was last year's big trade deadline guy? I don't even remember, man. So there isn't one of those guys out there this year. And no one's really talking about that. Everyone just wants to throw out random names. Like, thank God the Emmanuel Clase, Stephen Kwan trade thing has sort of died away. So I had to hear that one more friggin' time. Ugh. Man, I would it's going to throw up. Well, if the Phillies aren't going to mortgage the future, which I have no problem with, so then let's bring up Crawford. 100%, Mike. I agree. I don't understand why he's not where he's at or why he's not here now. I've said that for months. I maintain that June 15th, which was that date back in June on the 15th, where the service time requirement after June 15th, they weren't going to have to burn a year of his service time. So he could have come up on June 16th and they would have saved a year on his contract. So his 7-year contract wouldn't really start burning off till 2026. But June 15th is long since come and gone, and yet no Justin Crawford. I agree. I don't know what the friggin' and yeah, there's the ground ball stuff. There's the there's that. But I maintain, could we get less production from Crawford than we're getting from Marsh and Johan Rojas? I don't see where not. And then Rojas, when he came up, do you guys remember this? This was back, what, 2022, 23? Rojas never even made it to AAA. They pulled him up in AA. So you're telling me by that Johan Rojas had a bigger ceiling than a first-round draft pick did? It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand the thinking. What are they saving him for? Is it to be traded? They don't want to lower his stock by showing him at any level of major league play. I don't get it, man. I don't get it at all. Do I think Middleton could be saying about not mortgaging the future as a smokescreen? Absolutely not. Michael, do you remember 2013 through 2018? It was sickening, right? It was sickening. Now, I wasn't complaining back in 08, 09, or 09, 10. I guess that was really content. 09, 10, and 11 was when they were jettisoning all their pieces. And yes, those pieces ended up not working out at all. Most of those draft picks they sent away. I get that. But they didn't know that at that time. And there was absolutely nothing. I mean, that era, the 09 through 11 era, set back this minor league system 10 years. And I don't think he wants to go back through that again. Not at all. It set this team back 10 years. That's why they had to go out and become the 4th highest payroll in Major League Baseball, because they had absolutely nothing to pull from the minor leagues. And I think from a financial standpoint, I think from a business standpoint and a baseball standpoint, he doesn't want to go back there. And I 100% believe that. And I don't want to go back there either. Now, I know I'm not sitting here telling you to hoard every goddamn draft pick and just say, you know what, we're just going to let nature take its course. I'm not saying that. But I'm also saying don't blow it up. Don't throw a grenade in the room and just count the bodies at the end. I'm totally against that. You got to be able to do it both ways, right? They invested all this money that obviously is not working, that obviously has not panned out the way they wanted it to. But Middleton's also at a position coming up at the end of the season where they're going to start moving away from some contracts if they choose to do so. Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Ranger Suarez, to name 3. But no, I am not in on blowing it up. Not at all. Well, if the owner doesn't want to go to the bad years, then open your wallet and pay Schwarber. But is that doing it though? And I'm not saying you're wrong. He's proven himself over the last 2 years. He's finally kind of figured it out here. But is Kyle Schwarber the missing piece for this team? Could we not replace Kyle Schwarber's production in this lineup with, say, 2 or 3 other players going all Billy Bean here and save some money on the back end of this? I'm just saying. It's fan favorite be damned. I get it. But is Kyle Schwarber, we haven't won a World Series with Kyle Schwarber here. And if we bring Kyle Schwarber back, you're now limiting yourself on what else you're going to be able to do to bring players in around him. We're right back to square one. We're right back in this sick little cycle that we're in. So it's not as cut and dry either about signing Kyle Schwarber, because what is Kyle Schwarber? How many World Series trophies are we sitting here with because of Kyle Schwarber? 0. It's all about the team and winning. It's not about Kyle Schwarber. It's not. And I'm not saying he don't deserve it. And I'm also not. I also believe firmly there's no way the Phillies are going to be able to afford him. Just no way. Schwarber's gone. I mean, I think we all need to start getting that, coming to that reality. I don't think Schwarber's coming back. And not because he doesn't want to. He's going to feel jilted by any kind of offer the Phillies give him. He's going to get top dollar out there, and he knows it. He absolutely does. He absolutely knows where he wants. He can go to the Dodgers. He can go to a team that's maybe closer to winning this thing than the Phillies are. He could go to the Yankees. He could go to a bigger market than he's in. Kyle's not getting any younger. Chasing a ring, or I should say another ring, is probably what he wants to do. Are the Phillies one of his options? Probably, absolutely. But are we going to have the stones to throw in with Kyle Schwarber? And again, if we don't, frees up some money. Maybe we can bring in about 3 different free agents, try to offset this lineup a little bit. That's going to be a conversation here in a few months. I'm not ready to have that conversation yet because that means baseball's over, and I don't want to talk about that. Dombrowski hasn't figured out left or center. He hasn't figured out left or center in the entire time that he's been here. The entire time. Hey, Ricky, what's up, man? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. It was Soto. So Soto was the last bell cow splashy name that was moved at the trade deadline. Does that factor into some of your, and when I say your, I mean you guys out there watching, does that factor into some of your trade deadline needs? That there's not a player out there like a Schwarber or Manny Ramirez? There's not a player that can be, or hell, Kurt Schilling back when he was moved by the Phillies. I mean, does that factor, or Cole Hamels, does that factor into any of this? That we're talking about drastically overpaying for the likes of Cedric Mullen, for the likes of Lewis Robert Jr. Is that something that you have to factor in when going all in on the World Series run here? That the players that are available out there, or the players that are being shopped out there, they're just not that good. You don't have to make a trade just to make a trade. If you can't seriously look at a player and say this is going to be a significant upgrade, not only is it going to be a significant upgrade, it's going to be such a significant upgrade that I'm not going to miss the pieces I'm giving up in the long run. And do any of those players that we're talking about, that we've talked about over the past few weeks, do any of those players check any of those boxes? I don't know. Clase and Quan might, but again, they're not being. I don't even think they're being traded. Watch Dombrowski go and trade for Rhys Hoskins and move Harper back to the outfield. I don't think Rhys Hoskins would. I don't know. No, because they're not going to trade for Rhys Hoskins. Nah. I remember all the bad years and in the 50 years of watching the Phillies. Okay, so do I. I got the same track record as you. And I want World Series championships as much as you. I want to be a dynasty just as much as you. But sometimes you can't force these things. And I know I'm the wrong person to be saying things like this. And it doesn't make any sense for me to say it like this. But when I'm looking at trading away the future of this team, I don't look at it willy-nilliness. I don't look at it like it's an afterthought. I look at it, it has significant ramifications, and those ramifications are recent. We just went through it, and I'm not necessarily ready to jump back in the bed with that. Because if I got to endure 3 or 5 years of Dougal Herrera, Cesar Hernandez, Maikel Franco, Tommy Joseph, I don't know if I can do that again. I don't know if I have the strength to endure that. And Cameron Rupp, I don't know if I have the strength. So you got to find a way to marry both, man. We haven't won a World Series with Schwarber, Harper, Wheeler, Minto, Castellanos. Once he leaves us, that's going to leave Harper high and dry with no protection. Harper, yeah. Obviously, there's going to have to be a move made to counteract Schwarber if he leaves. Obviously. I mean, we're looking at this like once Schwarber leaves, it's just we're not going to replace him. We're not going to try to replace him. It's going to be Harper and then the rest of them. Come on, I get what you're saying, but does Harper need protection? You're paying this guy $330 million and you need to protect him? I thought Harper was generational. I thought Harper was the next thing since Babe Ruth. And we're talking about him losing his protection? Should we hire Fat Dom? Maybe Fat Dom can be Harper's protection. You know what I'm saying, right, Papernick? I mean, I'm not downplaying what you're saying, but are we really seriously looking at a $330 million player and saying we need to get him protection in the lineup? I thought he is the lineup. He doesn't require protection. Somebody once told me that Harper was a generational player, begot to us from the baseball gods. And now we're talking about protection for him in the lineup. Why would you need that? Who was Mike Schmidt's protection in the lineup for all those years he played here? Who was it? I have no idea who it was. Might have been Luzinski for a couple years. But who was Mike Schmidt's protection while he was batting 580 some odd home runs and the greatest third baseman ever played the game? I can't offhand tell you Mike Schmidt's protection in our lineup. So why does Harper require one? It's supposed to be generational. Estevez was kind of a splash in the Phillies' eyes, not mine. Estevez was a good pickup, man. I thought it was a really good pickup. I did. I actually liked that pickup. But, of course, he wasn't used as a closer, so kind of went to the wayside. But I thought the back end of the bullpen last year with Hoffman and Estevez, I thought that was pretty nice. And, again, it failed in the playoffs. It failed miserably in the playoffs. But, you know, I thought the Phillies put themselves in the best position they could have. And they offloaded Greg Soto, and they offloaded Sir Anthony, which I guess Sir Anthony, there's rumors that he might be on his way back. His name's been thrown out there. I would take Sir Anthony Dominguez in a 1-for-1 trade for Johan Rojas. There we go, 1-for-1. But I was okay with it, man. I really was. I would love the Phillies to get rid of Nick Castellanos. Yeah, and I guess when did he get hurt? Was that yesterday that he had that collision? People were like holding their breath because they're like, "Oh no, don't get hurt because you can't get traded." It's messed up, man. That's messed up. You know, he's under contract for one more year. They got him through 26, which actually makes him, in my opinion, a very attractive trade offer because they have a team would have one more full season of control of Nick Castellanos. I would love to see that move be made. I think Nick Castellanos in the lineup is probably one of the only Phillies that we actually have that could get some value. Not on his own. He needs a sweetener in there. But I think the Phillies could pull off a decent trade with Nick Castellanos and say a lower level prospect. I think they could. And it'd be interesting. Would anybody would bat an eyelash for the loss of Nick Castellanos? Was he a major disappointment since he's been here? Well, if I was the opposing manager, I would walk Schwarber and Harper and tell Castellanos, Remuto, Kemp, Marsh, Stott, Kepler to beat us. No, I would too. Absolutely. I would too. 100%. Because 9 times out of 10, you'd be right. Except, don't put freaking Kemp in that mix, man. Come on, just hit 2 home runs at Yankee Stadium, man. You know, put Otto Kemp. Otto Kemp hasn't been here long enough to get that kind of treatment yet. All right? The rest of them, yeah. But come on, man. Give Kemp a minute. Give Kemp a minute to get his breath. Oh. But I agree with you, man. I agree. And that just also tells me where this lineup is right now and how far away they actually are to potentially winning a World Series. So with the trade deadline looming, Phillies have signed all but 3 of their draft picks. Gage Wood is not going to Reading. He's not going to Reading. He's probably going to Clearwater. And now with the Chicago White Sox, we're in this like weird 15-game stretch with the American League on the Chicago next. And then after that, it's Detroit, Baltimore, Texas. I mean, we got a whole bunch of American League teams back to back to back. And we're in August, man. We're into August. We are into the dog days of summer. We are into the push to the playoffs. And the Phillies are, and I said this at the review show, the midseason check-in show, Fighting's Final. At the very least bit, what we got is yet another September of meaningful baseball. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like meaningful baseball. And again, I'll go back to the dark days. What was it, 2018? No, it was like 2016, maybe. 2016? Yeah, let's go with 2016. June 8th, June 10th, the season was over. Season was friggin' over, man. Team's like 30 games under 500. I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that. And we have another meaningful September of baseball coming up. So at the very least bit, you can kind of take solace in that. I know that doesn't really pay the bills, and I get you, and I support you, and I want it as badly as you do. And if it doesn't work, and we don't win the World Series, and God forbid we don't make the playoffs, because that's not a foregone conclusion right now either. The Phillies really have not done enough yet. You know, with the way the Mets struggled earlier this season, and the way the rest of the league kind of struggled, Dodgers got off to a slow start after getting off to a hot start. They fell back down. The Braves have been completely a dumpster fire since the beginning. The Phillies had an opportunity to really push some distance between them and the National League, a la like last season, and sort of kind of coast to the end, a la like last season. I don't want the same results as last season, but they didn't do that. You know, aside from the month of May, the team's been a 500 team all season long. And that's, and I know a lot of people, me included, yeah, they're making the playoffs. There's no reason, there's no doubt that they're not. But guess what? There is a doubt there. There's a doubt creeping in, man. What, it's like 3 games separate the Phillies from being out of the playoffs? That is a very small window and, error of margin. It is very small. So nothing's guaranteed right now, but at least we'll have an opportunity to battle for it. Trade Castellanos and Luzardo as he has 1 year left on his contract. Yeah. To who? Give me the trade offer, Michael Papernick. Give me the trade offer involving Nick Castellanos and Jesus Luzardo, with 1 year both remaining on each of their contracts. Who are you trading them to, and for what? Because I guarantee you, Jesus Luzardo's 1 year left on his deal. Nick Castellanos is 1 year left on his deal. Does not fit the timeline of the Pirates, the A's, the White Sox, the Orioles. Maybe it does. Maybe it fits the Orioles. Doesn't fit any of these teams' timelines. No one's taking Nick Castellanos and Jesus Luzardo and all the money for 1 year of control. It's not happening. Doesn't make any business sense. No GM out there would make that move. Who gets next year for the Baseball Hall of Fame? Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins. I'm banking on it right now. You heard it here first, Joe Hale. And we will. I'm making the claim right now. I split my time between Philadelphia and a city up in central New York called Utica. That's where my wife lives. So I split my time between Philly and Utica. And it's about 45 minutes from Cooperstown. And I work all summer long in Cooperstown umpiring baseball games. Bust my ass doing it all summer. So if Chase Utley, or I shouldn't say if, when Chase Utley and Jimmy Rollins get enshrined into Cooperstown next year, the It's a Wrap Sports Network will be on location live daily induction weekend, bringing you the latest of that. That is going to be a fun event. And you got to keep it going, right? We had 2 Phillies get inducted today. Dick Allen and Billy Wagner were enshrined into Cooperstown. Next year, we're going to keep it going with 2 more Phillies in Chase Utley and Ryan Howard. Not Ryan Howard. Jimmy Rollins. Ryan Howard is actually off of the ballot. He didn't gain enough votes to stay on the damn ballot. So his last shot will be the Veterans Committee. But you heard it here. Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins are going in next year together. And not only are they going in together next year, we'll find out in December. I guess where is it, December? No, that's when the ballot comes out. Like this is January-ish time frame. We find out who the class of 2026 will be. If they go in, if they make it, or say when they make it, they're also going to have a dual number retirement ceremony at CBP next year, right before the All-Star game is hosted at the bank. It's going to be a banner Phillies year next year. On top of all that, the Phillies are going to retool aggressively in the offseason, balance out this lineup. They're going to pull in a couple starters, maybe reinforce the back end reinforce the bullpen, fire the manager, bring a manager that actually cares about routine, give roles to the bullpen. They're going to balance everything out. They're going to have a dual number retirement ceremony. They're going to host the All-Star game, and then we got the World Baseball Classic next year. That's right, guys. You know that's back, right? This February or this March, the WBC returns. Team USA looking to avenge their loss to Japan. The WBC will be back this March. Cannot wait. Big year of baseball in 2026. That's what I'm keeping my eye on. That's what I got my eye on, man. A big year for baseball in 2026 and a big year for the Phillies and Philadelphia in 2026. And of course, it's the 150th anniversary of our beloved, or 250th birthday of the United States of America. Would you, if you were Middleton, ask Ed Wade if he'd like to be a senior advisor for the minor league system, as he knows what it looks like in Phillies and Houston during his years? Well, it's been about 20 years or 15 years, I guess, since Ed Wade's been really inside baseball. I wouldn't be opposed to it. Absolutely not. I mean, Ed Wade got vilified, and that's going to be next week too, right? Isn't that next weekend where they enshrine Ed Wade? Who's going in there with them? Ed Wade, and who else is going in the Hall of Fame for the Phillies? Who is that? Ed Wade and who? Why do I forget the player? Somebody, you guys know what it is. Who's the player that's going into the Hall of Fame next week? The Wall, sorry, not the Hall, but the Wall of Fame. Ed Wade and who? It's going to be funny because Ed Wade's going to get a standing ovation. He got vilified here for not trading away the prospects. I don't know if you guys remember that. Oh, it's Jimmy Rollins. So Ed Wade and Jimmy Rollins are going into the Wall of Fame next week, right? Against the alumni weekend against the Tigers. That's next weekend? He got vilified, man, for not trading Wade, for not trading Chase Utley, for not trading Ryan Howard, for not trading Cole Hamels. He got vilified for that. They wanted to burn him alive. And now we look back at him as maybe one of the best GMs we ever had because he hand-delivered, the 08 World Series team. And maybe that's also what I'm thinking. Maybe there's another one of those waves coming. And that wave is Crawford and Miller and Painter. Maybe that's the next 08 wave. And I'm just kind of hanging in there until that happens. I don't know, man. I'm trying to grab on anything here because I'm just not feeling what the Phillies are doing right now. If Utley or Rollins get to the Hall of Fame next year, I'll be there. And if my grandson loves it, would be a party. Now, I was 20. God, what was I? 94, right? No, 95. I was 22 when Schmidt and Ashburn went in to the Hall of Fame. And I was there in Cooperstown for that one. That was a party. I spent the whole weekend up there. It was nothing but Philadelphia, Pennsylvania driver's license or plates, PA people, red and white everywhere you looked. It was one of the most purest events that I've ever, and I'm so happy that I took the time out and went up there and enjoyed that. I was going to go in 94 when Carlton went in, but I couldn't make it. So I went in 95 when Schmidt and Ashburn went in. And if Utley and Howard or Utley and Rollins get in, I'll be back there because it'll be probably the same thing, but times 100 because it'll be, obviously younger people because it's more of a younger generation group. But that'll be something. That's a can't miss moment in Philadelphia sports history. And I hope they go in together. I truly do hope they go in together. That would be great. I found out where the MLB draft is going to be in Philly. Is it going to be at the convention center? Jimmy Rollins. Yes, Jimmy Rollins. So I read Harper went and talked to Sosa about throwing his helmet to the ground, but has he talked to Bohm, who does it regularly? soft ass baseball players, man. Who cares they throw their helmet to the ground? I don't care. Throw your helmet, throw your bat. And Harper is the last person to actually talk smack about any of that. Harper's the biggest bitch in the game. He whines and talks. So I listen, I know personally MLB umpires, and he is on everyone's top 5 of the cryingest, bitchiest players in the game. Talking every pitch. Just a little baby, man. But yet, he's going to have the audacity to tell somebody else that they're acting up. I don't buy that crap. I am not a Harper fan at all. And again, I have inside information about how he really is on the field. So, yeah, I hold no validity into that statement at all. This coming Friday for the Wall of Fame. Yes, it's this weekend, right? Ed Wade helped build Houston to where it is also. Well, he started it. He started them on their way. He jettisoned all their big contracts, i.e. Hunter Pence, and he started. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. And I'm not where they are now. No, we're well removed from that. I mean, he built them to where they were, say, in 2015, 2016, in that era, as they were coming up 2017, 2018. I'm not going to give it now. There's been too much time. But yeah, when they rose back up from the ashes, yes, absolutely. It was Ed Wade's handprint all over that. I agree. But we're beyond that now. The MLB draft to be at the convention center. Yeah, it's where everybody thought it would be. It's going to be a big weekend here. You got the MLB draft. You'll have the Futures game. You have the All-Star game, the Home Run Derby. I mean, it is going to be a party here in Philadelphia next year. And all the 2026 MLB All-Star game apparel is out right now. Go ahead and you can buy your own. You can buy that stuff. It's already being sold. So, absolutely. Thoughts on a salary cap that's coming up in 2 years? They salary cap in baseball. So the CBA expires on December the 1st, 2026. That's when the current CBA expires. Now I know they've spoken about maybe adding a salary cap to the discussion list, but there's nothing imminent about a salary cap coming to baseball. There's nothing imminent, and that doesn't. The majority of teams are not going to agree to that. The smaller market teams will, but the other teams are not going to. There's no way the Phillies or the Mets or the Yankees are going to agree to a salary cap. No, they love the luxury tax. They love that. They love the revenue stream that they generate from these high markets. Now, I'm not saying that baseball couldn't use a salary cap. They might, but there's nothing imminent about a salary cap coming to baseball. The CBA does expire on December the 1st, 2026, after next season. And yes, it could be a major talking point during the new renegotiations. And God, don't have a strike. I can't go through that. But yeah, that might be one of the talking points. But I haven't heard anything about an imminent salary cap coming. I like Robert, but would you listen to any offers? I'm 100%. 100%. Absolutely. But if I was going to actively move Harper this offseason or try to move him this offseason, I'd have to re-sign Schwarber because I got to have some power protection in my lineup. I need some power in my lineup. So, and obviously the better power hitter is Schwarber anyway. And who knows, maybe Harper does better without Schwarber. I don't know. But yeah, I would listen to there's no player on this team currently on the active roster that's hands off for a trade offer. None. But we are coming up to it. 5 days away now, 4 days away, whatever, to the trade deadline. And the Phillies are on the clock, and they have not done anything yet of significance. And is there a move coming? We'll have to wait and see. Well, I'm going to transition because I spent almost an hour yammering on about the Phillies. Let's get into some Flyers talk real quick. Carter Hart and the other 4 defendants that he was up with have been found not guilty of the sexual assault charge levied against him by the plaintiff, who goes by the name or initials EM, as her identity has been protected. This was an interesting situation. Obviously, we all were tracking it, but prior to it coming down, 2018, the event, the the country of Canada was honoring the 2018 World Junior Championship Hockey Canada team, which Carter Hart was a member of. And they had a party in London, Ontario, in the summer of 18 in June. And there was an incident that occurred, and Carter Hart was involved in this incident. Now, the incident was suppressed, was tried to, there was a lawsuit filed by EM, a civil lawsuit, or there was a criminal investigation that went nowhere. Then a civil lawsuit was filed. Hockey Canada did not investigate. All they did was pay it off. They paid her. Just paid her to shut her up. And then the Board of Governors of Hockey Canada all got fired for that, because it was a massive cover-up, because where they used the money from to pay off that lawsuit came from all kinds of areas and it was lied to about where the money came from. Then the criminal investigation got reignited with the help of the NHL. And then in January of 24, or I should say about February 24, indictments came down on 5 players that were all currently playing in the NHL, with one of them being Carter Hart. They were charged, went to trial. There was 2 mistrials during their trial period. 2 times the thing got thrown out because of a mistrial. And on last week, Carter Hart was found, and the other 4 defendants, all 5 of them were acquitted. Now, the judge said something that sticks in my head. She said they're not innocent of the crime. They're just not guilty, which means the country, or the government, or they call it the Crown of Canada, did not bring ample evidence beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a crime committed. Now, there was something done. Something happened in that room. Some freaky deakiness was going down, and Carter Hart was present. And whether or not that was a criminal freaky deaky, obviously the country of Canada couldn't prove that. So Carter Hart is a free man. Now, Carter Hart and his legacy with the Flyers, after the indictments went down, or before the indictments went down, Carter Hart took a leave of absence. Then he got arrested, and the NHL never did anything formally to these players. They allowed them to leave their teams, to go take a leave of absence, return to Canada to face the music. But these players weren't banned. These players weren't suspended. These players weren't jettisoned off into the Isle of Misfit Toys. None of that stuff. They just were left to expire. Carter Hart was a restricted free agent in the summer of 2024, which meant that the Flyers had till July 1st, 2024, to present Carter Hart a qualifying offer for another RFA contract. And if they did not on July 2nd, 2024, or if they didn't formally submit a qualifying offer to the league office by July 1st, 2024, Carter Hart would become an unrestricted free agent on July 2nd, 2024. And that's exactly what happened. The Flyers did not submit a qualifying offer, and Carter Hart became a UFA. About 3 years earlier than he should have, because he had one more RFA contract at team control pending. So now Carter Hart and the other 4 are free to sign with whomever they want. They are not banned from the NHL. Again, some idiots are out there saying that they're banned from the NHL. They're not. They never were. How could you be banned? You weren't convicted of anything. They were given leaves of absence, and then their contracts all lapsed. So there's no paperwork stating that they can't play in the National Hockey League. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff that you have to take into consideration. The optics of this. Carter Hart was found not guilty of the crime. He wasn't found innocent. That's big. That's big in this. Does a team that is in dire need of a goddamn goaltender? We've been in a dire need of a goaltender since Pelle Lindbergh, God rest his soul, smacked into those school steps back in 1985. And I guarantee you, and I don't mean to make light of this, I was a huge Pelle Lindbergh fan. I thought he was on his way to being the best goalie ever to play in the NHL. But I think on the way, right before he died, he cursed the Flyers for this incident all happening to him. And ever since then, we have not been able to figure out the damn goaltending situation. Now, some of it's been our own fault, letting players go too soon, Sergei Bobrovsky, players like that, holding on to players too long, like Ron Hextall. A lot of it has been our fault, but some of it also has been just the worst luck ever. And I'm not saying Carter Hart was the answer, because I was not a big Carter Hart guy. I thought Carter Hart was an above average. He was a starter, which is a far cry from what we have now, but he wasn't, I thought, the long-term answer here either. But with the Flyers situation, a goalie with a 1A, 1B, with Vladar and now Erson as the 1A, 1B, would a Carter Hart reunion with the Flyers be in order? Now, optically, it's a PR nightmare for the Flyers. 100%. And that's really where the conversation needs to end. They're not going in that. They're not going down that road. This team is just now rebuilding itself. They're not even rebuilt. They're trying to reestablish credibility, not only with the fans of this team, but with the NHL. And re-signing Carter Hart just opens it up for way too much stuff. For a team that has not found its identity yet. For a team that's still figuring itself out, to go ahead and re-sign Carter Hart. Now, I'm not saying that Carter Hart or the other four don't eventually find their way back to the NHL. I'm not saying that. But I just don't think the Flyers can afford optically to re-sign Carter Hart. I just don't think in this day and age it's going to work. And I don't know. So I'm interested to hear what you guys think about that. I would trade. Yeah, I would too. So they paid it off. They did. They tried to pay her off. It was funny because when it first broke, it was a civil lawsuit between Hockey Canada and this defendant who goes by the name EM because her identity has been protected. Hockey Canada just went didn't do investigation, didn't counter it, didn't, rebuke it. They just paid it off. And how they paid it off was they pulled money from different facets of the association under different like shell game names, like something else that was being paid. X amount of money was going to pay this. X amount of money it was completely like illegally moved around in order to pay her off so it would just disappear. Oh, that was huge, man. And that's where all this powder keg was ignited because of that money thing with Hockey Canada. That was huge news. And that's where all this started. But again, EM's credibility in this trial was pretty much destroyed. She was found out to be, let's just call it a party girl. I'll leave it at that. Okay. That's what basically was found out during this trial. But she wanted to get paid, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I don't fault her for that, but yeah, that's where it all kind of like happened. So what happens to this poor girl involved? Nothing. She took a shot and she lost. I mean, she got paid. Again, Michael Papernik, go back and watch, do some research on this trial. She's not a church girl. I'll leave it at that. All right. And again, I wasn't in the room. Don't implicate me in any of this. I'm not. They didn't go to a local church and drag her into this hotel room. Just gonna leave it at that, Mike. All right. So this poor girl, I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not going there either, man. All right. So I get what you're saying. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people were guilty that night. All right. And a lot of people were innocent too at the same time. Leave Carter Hart in Canada. Don't want. Again, yeah, I kind of agree. Carter Hart goes to Edmonton. He can stay home with his parents. The smartest girl not taking payoff was the only one. The woman. Michael Papernik coming off the top rope with that one. But anyway, it's over. Now there's an appeal process that can go down, and I don't know how that works in Canada. I don't know if you can because I know in this country, once you're acquitted, you cannot be formally brought up on charges, and she's already got her civil lawsuit. So I don't know what the next step is, but for all intents and purposes, they're free. And none of them were found guilty. None of them. None of the 5 were found guilty of anything. They weren't found innocent, but they weren't found guilty of anything. So you can draw your own conclusions from that if you like. All right. But Carter Hart is a free man, free to sign with whomever he wants to sign with. And with the season getting close, do you take a shot? I don't care if she wasn't a church girl, whatever happened, she didn't deserve it. So let's what happened? That's the question, because you don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. And I'm not saying it's a matter of deserving anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they weren't all at the local bingo parlor when all this went down. All right? That's all I'm saying. I'm not characterizing anybody. I got skeletons in my closet too. All right? But whether or not she's someone's daughter or not, no bearing in this. She's a grown woman. She's over 18. Also, all I'm saying. And then no one said anything about anybody deserving anything. Just saying. There was a lot of stuff going down. And in a court of law, 5 defendants walked away. That's all I'm saying. Okay? Don't spin it any other way. The apple falls equally on both sides of the tree sometimes. So, that's all I'm trying to say. And yes, justice is not blind. I get that 100%. And I don't know. I'm making conjectures just like everybody else. I wasn't there. I don't know if a crime was committed. I don't know who the victim is. I don't know who the agitators were. I wasn't there. None of us were. And obviously, whatever evidence was given in a court of public opinion, a court of law, whatever, there wasn't indisputable proof to convict these guys of sexual assault. Not saying they're innocent, just like the judge. I'm saying they're not guilty. But so Carter Hart, free agent, do you take a shot? PR nightmare? No. Now, Michael Vick is also kind of conjured up in my mind, but this is a different situation. Michael Vick was convicted. I mean, he went to prison, served his time. But is that worse than this? I mean, Carter Hart was vindicated. He walked away. Michael Vick was convicted and got a job with the Eagles. I'm wondering where is the ethical line here? And would it be feasible for the Flyers to cross that ethical line in search of a goaltender? And is there a line that's crossed? Everyone says justice is blind. And if you're proven innocent by a jury of your peers or the judge, whoever the case is, should you not be given a free opportunity to resume your life just like you do after you serve your time after committing a crime? Now, I remember the backlash of Michael Vick. It's pretty bad. And it was a different situation. But Michael Vick was convicted. And he went to jail. And he came back and actually had a renaissance of a career after that. Optically, the Eagles withstood it. Could the Flyers withstand something like that? If the judge says they're not guilty, but guilty, that tells me enough. She said they weren't innocent, but they're not guilty. Not my words, man. All right? I wasn't the judge. Not my words. And again, I'm not saying that they were at a bingo parlor themselves. I'm not saying any of that. But I wasn't there, and I don't know the trial. I'm sure there's 2 sides to every story. And she was paid off a lot of money by Hockey Canada. A lot of money. For them to make it go away. So, again, where there's smoke, there's fire usually, right? I get you. 100%. What do you do with Carter Hart? Do you take a shot on him? I don't know. I personally don't. Because I wasn't a big fan of his anyway. And I don't think necessarily he's the answer we need. And I know there's fans out there. There was a big conversation. I don't know where it was. I heard it over the internet about that. About Carter Hart returning here to play for the Flyers. Because of the desperate issues that the Flyers are having in between the pipes. And I don't think the team is that desperate. And I honestly think the team has moved on. Don't forget, Carter Hart left this team. 2 years ago, which might as well be 200 years ago, with the way this team has sort of progressed without John Tortorella. They're kind of entering phase 2 of a rebuild. I think they've moved on past Carter Hart. Bump Carter Hart and the frat boys. So I don't know. I'm personally not taking a shot on them. Nah. I like what we're doing with goaltending. We got 2 prospects coming up the pipe, Bjornsson, Zarajan. Let them take their shot here soon. Be another year or 2 before they're ready. So we move on without Carter Hart. All right. Let's move on now on our show. Get off this subject. What else? Eagles training camp, real quick update. What do you report when you talk about Eagles training camp? What's the storylines? Do you report on practice? I know what was the thing ESP does, tracking Jalen Hurts' completions during or pass attempts, whatever it is, during training camp. I mean, what is the storylines at training camp? Yeah, I get position battles, but we're not really dealing with those. What are some of the sexy stories of this year's Eagles training camp? The body type of Jordan Davis has lost all that weight. The Jordan Mailata conversation about not defending anything, but going out and winning it again. I mean, what is the huge story out of Eagles training camp? I'm asking because I don't know. It's hard for me to get unless you're down in training camp, like watching the practices and reporting back about it. What is the sexy stuff coming out of camp? 7-on-7 in shorts. I mean, what do you see in there? What are some of the things that impress you? And with the NFL's preseason looming and the Eagles preseason looming, and we're 45 days away? Is that what the number I heard today was? 45 days away from the start of the regular season. What are some of the things you're looking for? You know, the big stories that I was following out of the offseason with this team is obviously the new defense, the revamped defense of this football team. No, everyone doesn't want to call it that. It's like we've forgotten what we did in the offseason, how we cut ties with about 7 starters. But we're not talking about the defense. We're fixated on Jalen Hurts, and we're fixated on Jordan Davis's body type, but I guess that's talking about the defense. But we're not talking about potential roster spots or position battles. Campbell's been there's a good story. Giad Campbell came into camp. There was some question about that shoulder, when it would be ready, and he's ready to go. And he's a day 1 participant. That's huge for the Eagles because Nakobe Dean is not a day 1 participant. Is Nakobe Dean's career over? Is he going to come back from this? It's off on some side field doing like wind sprints while the team is practicing. I mean, that's pretty significant. But training camp is in full training camp. People are doing what they got to do. We're getting closer to this. I'm getting excited. Can't wait for the football season to begin. As we get closer here on this network, of course, we got you covered for Eagles coverage in 2025 with 2 separate shows. The quintessential Eagle pregame show, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, which will be every week, about Thursday or Friday before the game. Me and Kyle will cut it up and give you what we think is going to happen and what also did happen in the game prior. And then on the, I don't have it here. We have a post-game show here on the network called the Birds Flyby that we did last year that we're going to bring back this year. So we're getting closer and closer to all this, and we cannot wait. Let's go now. Did I talk about everything I wanted to talk about? Carter Hart, Phillies trade deadline, some training camp stuff, some Hall of Fame stuff. Yeah, we talked about pretty much all of it. Let's head on to the other night segment. All right, the other night segment. This is the time of the night where we sit back and we talk about Michael Kaepernick says he's just ready for some football. Yeah, me too. We talked about this last week, Mike. Baseball's got what? Essentially, the baseball season's from February to November, right? So that leaves you December and January. 2 months of downtime for baseball. 2 months of no baseball, right? Hockey goes from June or from September with training camp all the way to June. So 2 months with no hockey, essentially. Basketball, October to June. So they got a little bit longer off season, 3 months. But freaking football, man. It starts in late July and goes through mid-February. So you got March, April, May, June. You got like 4.5, 5 months. I get why it's such a long off season. It has to be. These players got to recover. But boy, man, I'll never get over that. I've never gotten over that. It's too long of an off season. There's got to be something else, man. I know they've tried. And that's why I was such a big fan of the USFL, I think, back in the day, because it was good football. It was really good football. And it was, at the time, in this town, it was better than the Eagles. But something's got to give, man. Will the attacking third be on this week with Steve Fuentes? Yeah, Steve will be on, as far as I know. Pat will probably not be there, but Steve will be there, I believe. Why are you asking me? How should I know? No, I think he'll do it. We were talking about it today. He never said anything contrary to it, but yeah, I think Steve will be a go. What about Jeff Lurie talking about possible new stadium and letting the fans be involved? I heard that too, and I also heard it's the innovation to probably try to bring the Super Bowl here. So that means a dome or some sort of retractable roof. Yeah, state of the art facility. Where do you put it? Do you blow up the link and put it there, or what do you do with the link? Give the link to Temple football. Get the link. I'd be on a new stadium, absolutely. With a retractable roof, absolutely, 100%. And the fans being involved. How are the fans being involved? I didn't see that part. All right, let's get over to the of the night segment because I am well beyond my time. We have reached the end of yet another one of our the USFL work because the NFL wasn't where it is today. Yeah, no, absolutely. God, it worked so well. I miss the USFL back in the day, not the brand that we got a couple years ago, and then they combined it with the XFL, and now it's the UFL. Yeah, I don't know that. We reached the end of another plateau here. Tonight was our last Phillies prospect. We've gone through 30 of them this season. Another feather in my cap. We've come to the end, and I'm done. I have no more of the night segments to give until we start Flyers seriously talking about the Flyers in probably about a month. But this is the final one. This is the final of the night segment for the current group of Phillies prospects that we have. And of course, I've long since been done the MLB draft, any NHL draft. So this is it. Phillies prospect, the last one. And it is John Spikerman. Spikerman is going to run his way up the organizational ladder. He has close to the top of the scale speed that uses both sides of the ball, stealing a ton of bases and beating out a lot of ground balls for hits on the offensive end things. He can cut down on the swing and miss on his game considerably as a junior while continuing to draw walks. And while he's never shown much power, there is some strength and bat speed to feed hope. He'll have enough impact as he faces better pitching. Spikerman was a draft pick last year. I believe now he's with Jersey Shore. I think he got upped at some point, but I think he's with Jersey Shore. He is another one of these that this is what I mean by the tier 2 prospects that are probably going to be talked about in these trades. So, but Spikerman's that contact / hitter that we've been looking for in that outfield. And, he's very early in his developmental process with the Phillies, but if they can hold on to him, there's some hope coming. But again, I believe 4th round pick last year, I want to say. Fans being involved with the Eagles' possible new stadium by like voting on. Oh, okay. Cool. I like that. So John Spikerman is our final Phillies prospect. Until we reload for the Flyers in late August and we start doing the Flyer spotlight cards, talking about the players getting ready for the season. And then we get back into doing what would be next. It would be the, I guess, NHL and MLB drafts. And then back to the Phillies prospect cards. So we've reached the end of the road, man. Wow. A lot of work put into those things, but it feels good. Feels good. Job well done by me. All right, let's get to our final segment of the night. My favorite segment. Yeah, it's the MattyB card review segment. Wait all day for this. I really do. It's where we take one of my sports cards and we talk about it, present it, go over the card, go over some financial, nostalgic value, all those fine favorite things. Tonight, we are staying in the modern era. That's right. We've been stuck there for the last few weeks, and I like it, and because I got a lot of cool cards in the modern era. This is not what you would call a cool card, but this is one of those cards that back in the time it came out, just like a lot of these players, you have a lot of hope for these guys, and I still have hope for this pitcher. It's just he just can't seem to get out of the way of Tommy John surgery, and he's a Yankee too, so not cool there. But tonight's card is the 2017 Bowman's First, Clark Schmidt. This is his rookie card. This was part of the Bowman set, the Bowman's Chrome set of 2017 with Topps. This was his rookie card. Now, it's also a refractor card, so it's it's a parallel. So it's a very valuable card just for that purpose. Now the player just has been snake bitten. Clark Schmidt's a quality starter, man. He's a prototypical number 3 in anybody's rotation, but he cannot stay healthy to save his life. He is now, as of July 10th, undergoing his second Tommy John surgery, so he'll be gone for probably at least until sometime in 2027. But had a lot of potential, and even after the first Tommy John, came back from it pretty strongly. Was a solid member, and he's part of the reason why the Yankees are struggling right now, because they are decimated with injury with their pitching staff. Again, the player, oodles and oodles of potential, just can't seem to stay healthy, and he's going through Tommy John yet again. The card's pretty cool. Again, I love anything chrome, and I love refractors. So when you got a chrome and a refractor at the same time, you got yourself something. And this card currently, for a Clark Schmidt 2017 Bowman's First, was it first draft pick? Or Bowman's First, not draft pick, but Bowman's First. For a Clark Schmidt 2017 Bowman's First Chrome refractor, you're sitting at about a $10 baseball card. For Clark Schmidt, can't beat that, man. Can't beat that with a stick. So, and again, just the way the card's put together is really cool. The refractor, the chrome, all works for me. Player I can do without, but of course that's not what this is about. It's about the presentation of the card, and it is a $10 baseball card. So whenever you can get a refractor or a chrome, you definitely handle it could be Joe Schmo. You definitely hold on to it. And here is the card in its physical form right there. The same card I just showed you up here. Flip it over in the back, and there's the back. Again, the classic chrome design. There's nothing much you can really do with a chrome, or not so much the chrome, but the refractor part of the chrome. They got to put the background in there, so it's going to drown out the background, so to speak. So, and there's the back here with all of his personal information. But $10 baseball card right now on any reputable database that you might find it. And that's it. That's MattyB's card review of the night, and that's going to take me to the end of another fantabulous show. Over an hour and a half, slightly over an hour and a half. So I want to thank you guys for joining in. Michael Papernick, Joe Hale, Ricky Deal. Didn't do phone lines tonight, but baby steps as I'm getting back into the swing of things. Now, tomorrow I will be back, but with the Fightins Final, and only the Fightins Final. I will not be back with the final word. The final word will be back on Tuesday night, and maybe Wednesday, definitely Thursday. Thursday, day 2. Yes, Thursday night we'll be back. So hopefully to get a 4 out of 5, maybe a 5 out of 5, but more realistically a 4 out of 5 for this week, which is better than it's been. Again, baby steps. But I want to thank everybody for joining in, for commenting along. Good conversation tonight. It was a good conversation. Yeah, I thought, talking about Carter Hart was therapeutic. Not that I was losing any sleep over the Carter Hart situation. And honestly, when something like that happens, you always go to the bad stuff of it. But good conversation. Trade deadline stuff. Phillies, are they all in or are they all out? Football's getting ready. I want to talk about some meat and bones with football. I don't want to talk speculation. I want to get in to start talking about X's and O's. And Kevin Patullo. No one's talking about him either. Everyone wants to rag on the Detroit Lions because they got 2 new coordinators. What about us? We got a new offensive coordinator again. But that conversation will be for another day. And I'll be here to give it to you. So I hope you guys are back tomorrow. Again, probably not. Definitely on Tuesday and Thursday. So tomorrow and Wednesday, we'll see. Until then, you guys have a great rest of your night and an even better tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow night on the Fighting's Final. Go Phils. Have a good night.